Do you have an extra one?
I do. I think that is one.
I'll take one with me.
Okay, Ryan and the other. You go grab
Hi.
it.
Are you Debbie? Hi, Elaine. Hi, Debbie. Hello.
How are you?
Just fine. Well, that's kind of the point.
It matches his jacket. My watch says it's almost 1 o'clock.
Still working on the electronics.
Deal. Well, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. All right. All right. With Chief, we have 10. All right.
Thank you.
Is that a better mask? All right. Everyone, it's now. I made the light come on. It works now. Yeah. It's 12 noon. I'd like to call our council. Thank you very much. And at this time, I'd like to call our meeting to order. Everyone would bow their heads for the invocation. Dear Father, this is an interesting time for all of us. May we continue to stay safe and protect our families, be respectful to our residents and the businesses within our boundary, and continue to stay in touch with our loved ones, and hopefully we will prevail in a swift manner, and our lives will return to normal. In your name we pray. Amen. We rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Janice, may the record show that all council members are present with the exception of Councilman Villarreal. All right. Presentations. We have
Our auditor will need to come in, and someone will need to say if you'd like to.
pass the baton.
I got it.
Thank you.
You can come on in. Yes, sir.
Okay.
Please identify yourself by name and your company.
Brian Magnus, Armstrong, Vaughn and Associates.
Thank you.
Thank you again for having us as auditors for the city. We really appreciate you working with us through this difficult time. I will make this as quick as go through this as quickly as I can. Just touching a few highlights. If we could look at the audit report on page 61, beginning with the end in mind here. Page 61 is the income statement, if you will, for the sewer fund, and what you'll notice there are two columns of numbers. 2018 is the right hand, fiscal 2019 is the left. And you'll notice that the operating revenues went up slightly by about $3,000. The expenses, which represent the next, are represented by the next group of numbers, went from 124 to 124, so they're about the same. The other thing I'd like to point out about this statement is you'll notice the very bottom of 2019, there's $208,073 in fund balance. That represents well over a year's worth of expenses, so the council has been very wise in saving funds for times like this. If we will next move over to page 53. Page 53 is a same type of statement, but it's for the general fund and same format. The bolded left-hand column is 2019. The right-hand column is 2018. Looking very quickly at the revenues, there were a couple of sizable increases. The ad valorem taxes increased from $2,738,486 in 2018, up to $2,895,085 in 2019. And that was due to the property value increases. It had nothing to do with the tax rate change. Another increase was on the license agreements, which are about 6 rows down. Those are the digital signs. There was a new digital sign added, so going from $200,000 up to $289,000, $50,000 of that was the sign bonus. And then the remainder were inflation adjusters for the older signs that were already legacy in place. So total revenues increased by about $400,000. If you look at the expense section, you'll notice pretty much across the board expenses increased just to increase costs and increase services to the city. The only thing I wanted to point out in the expenditure section in 2019, there towards the bottom, there's a principal payment of $10,524. That was the payoff of the last patrol car. So at this point, the city's only debt is the Voight Center, the Voight Center revenue bonds. The only other thing I wanted to point out about this statement, if you'll go towards the bottom, 4 numbers up from the bottom, there's a special item, wire fraud loss of $185,655 in 2019. There's no need to, that's been discussed by the council many times. There's no need to go into it. There's a little more description on page 43. We won't go into it now, but it is note M to the financial statements if you want to have any more detail on that. On page 45, this is the budget versus actual analysis for the general fund. So page 45, you have 4 columns of numbers. You have the original budget, the final budget, the actual amounts, and then a variance column. The positive numbers are favorable or good variances. The negative numbers are bad. So I'll focus on those. And what you'll notice in the variance column, about 3 rows down, the sales taxes were about $128,000 greater than expected. The other large variance was in the miscellaneous income line, and that has a lot to do with the ramped up activity at the Voight Center that was not planned, and there was also a small insurance settlement of $18,000 for a broken defibrillator that was not planned. In the expenditures area, there were some over and some under. The large underage there was on the capital outlay line, and that's because the council, when budgeting, they budget from a cash perspective. In the accounting world, we only capitalize certain things. All we capitalized this year was a new cruiser for $40,000, and that was the lion's share. There were a couple of servers, a solar roof, that type of thing. So the cause of that favorable variance is just an accounting difference. There's nothing to be concerned about. The total favorable expense variance was therefore $179,778. If you go 1 row down from that, the total better than expected performance of the general fund was $677,163. The last item I wanted to talk about in the report is if we could turn to page 15.
Brian,
Yes, sir.
Quick question.
Yes,
on
ma'am.
this page here, on page 45,
Yes.
on the fire under miscellaneous, you mentioned the defibrillator.
Yes.
And that had to have been replaced. And so I think Chief Patrico may remember it was like a $21,000 item. While we were reimbursed for the item and it went into miscellaneous, is it kind of misleading that the replacement cost went into the fire expense line? Shouldn't they have offset each other somehow, or is that?
You know, it's been a while since, no, you gross up the, you are actually supposed to show them separately. You're supposed to gross up the insurance proceeds, and then you have, if it's capitalized, and it's been 3 months since field work, so I don't remember if it could have been included in that capital outlay line of $97,231, but they should actually be grossed.
Okay.
But
Okay.
yes.
Thank you. Sorry.
Thank you. No problem there. So if we could then move to page 15. Page 15 is a view of all the governmental funds for the city. And we're just going to look at the general fund, which is the farthest on the left of numbers. And what we have here, just drawing your attention about 2/3 of the way down the page, the total expenditures for the year were $4,089,802. And if you go to the very bottom of that column, the total fund balance is $3,984,744. So the city does have some ability to make it through some lean times here, thanks again to the conservative budgeting and expenditure activity of the city. There was nothing else I did want to point out on the report. Janice, was the governance letter included? Was the governance letter included in the packet? Okay. Yes, it's the 4-page document. The only item I wanted to bring to your attention here was on page 4.
Here, is that the?
Yes. It's the,
Yes.
Okay. It's on page 4. Page 4 is where we make our recommendations, and two of the building permits and the investment reporting, those are just kind of standard recommendations we make. The last one, there were some adjustments we made to revenues during the audit, and but we expect this issue to go away now that Jeff has some assistance, and also we're going to go to, I understand we're going to pooled cash with the new depository institution, and that should help significantly in this area, so we don't expect it to recur. And that's really all I had. I will try to answer questions as best I can, but I may have to write them down because it has been several months again since I concluded field work. So,
Thank you for this.
okay, thank you.
I have no questions.
Thank you. And thanks to the city for being a loyal customer, and God bless you all, and be
Thank
safe.
you. Thank you very much. All right. We'll go on to announcements, reports, fire report. Chief Patrico.
How's everyone doing? Holding up? At home?
Terrific.
Good. Awesome. So our stats for March, we had 30 calls for service. 15 of those were EMS calls. 13 were fire alarms. We had 2 structure fires, which were in the county, and our average response time was 4 minutes and 36 seconds. Acadian's total calls were 9, and they averaged 11-minute response time. We did participate in the Easter parade. I think we all had fun doing that, and I think the kids really enjoyed being able to see the Easter bunny since they were trapped at home. So we had police there, and of course Kelly was driving the golf cart, and we had the fire truck, so it was a group effort, and I think it turned out really well. We have done 3 birthday drive-bys. We drive by, hit our lights and sirens, say happy birthday to the birthday child, and just really doing whatever we can to help while everybody's stuck at home and trying to make everybody's day a little better. As far as this COVID-19 goes, we've had 6 calls roughly in Hollywood Park where there were possible COVID patients, but to this day we haven't had any response back or heard anything about any positive cases inside the town of Hollywood Park. We did visit with the retirement home here, and we talked to them about some of their policies and procedures, and they seem to be following right along with what CDC recommends. They weren't in need of anything from us. It appears that they're doing everything they should be doing, and they also have reported no cases of positive COVID in their facility. To this date, there have been 1,029 positive cases in Bexar County. And when I say to this date, I got these numbers roughly around 6 o'clock last night is when they came out. 276 of those 1,029 have recovered from the illness, and 714 are still ill. And there have been 39 deaths in Bexar County from this disease. However, 18 of those were from that nursing home where they were having issues with, well, y'all know what I'm talking about. I don't want to get into that right now. So 18 of that, so really 21 that were outside of that nursing home in Bexar County. And there have been 6,972 persons tested to date in Bexar County. So one of the concerns that we had was, how are we going to get notified if we do have a patient that was COVID positive And we were running into some issues with Hollywood Park using San Antonio as their address. You know, they have the right street, but San Antonio, Texas, 78232. So when it comes across the desk at MedCom, they're like, okay, this is a San Antonio address. So that concern was addressed, and now there's a procedure in place to where if someone is taken to the hospital and they do test positive for COVID, the process is going to be Metro Health is going to notify each person's test results to San Antonio Fire Department EMS chief. And the EMS chief is then going to notify MedCom, and then MedCom is then going to notify the appropriate agency. And when I say that, they're going to notify the proper police agency, fire agency, and EMS agency. Because obviously, like in our case, EMS is separate from Hollywood Park. So they're supposed to notify each agency individually. So hopefully with that in place, we will get notified if somebody in Hollywood Park is tested positive for COVID.
Do those notifications come pretty quick? I mean, it sounds like there's a lot of...
So they should come, when you say pretty quick, I couldn't really answer truthfully how long it would take, but I would imagine they're basically 3 phone calls. So sometime within a 24-hour period, we should be notified.
And you said MedCom, like what, Sam?
So MedCom is medical communications, which is basically running the regional health crisis in our area.
You know,
So as far as Hollywood Park goes, in the past month we've made several policy changes, everywhere from how we show up to work to how we respond to calls and what kind of PPE we're going to wear and where are we getting this PPE from. We've gone to Lackland a few times to go pick stuff up. Most of the PPE that we've gotten for free through the county. Really, the only thing we've had to purchase was a thermometer and some disinfectant. Everything else we've been able to get. So we have a procedure in place, I'm sure y'all are aware of. Anybody who comes into this building is going to get health screened. They're going to have their temperature taken. We're going to ask them some questions. Have you traveled? Do you have a cough, chills, anything that might be an indication to where they're ill and they possibly might have COVID. So at that point, if you have any of these, we're not going to let you in the building. And to this date, we've turned one person away who's had 101 fever, not an employee, it was a vendor. So it's working. We're dealing with that. Been through daily Zoom meetings, conference calls, really getting sick of the whole COVID thing. But, you know, that's what we're here for, and this is our time to shine. So we're doing everything we can to keep all our employees protected.
you know, I'd like to thank you for going with me to that county commissioners meeting. I think it was on the 13th of March. And I think the 26 municipalities invited to that meeting, I think 2 brought their fire chiefs, and it seemed like an important and helpful thing for you to be in the loop on. And I think the fire marshal was there, and it went from, it sounded like we're on top of this, there's nothing to worry about, things are good. And the fire marshal was saying the Texas Open was going to take place as planned in that meeting. The next day they said, okay, the Texas Open will take place, but with no one can go. And then the day after that, they said, okay, there'll be no Texas Open. And then they said the day after that, on Friday, group size could be 1,000 in the morning and then 500 in the afternoon. And then on the following Monday, it went from 100 could be present to 50 to 10. And so we've been absorbing changes endlessly since that day, since that meeting. And again, I appreciate you going with me and helping wade through that, because I'm getting changes and contradictory statements constantly. I'm glad we don't have a golf course in our boundary, because the rules are kind of complicated.
So you're welcome.
Thank you for
I
that.
appreciate you inviting me to that meeting, but, on that same lines, all these policies, procedures we put in place, it's ever changing. Every day there's new information coming out, so we're either writing a new policy or updating the policies we already have in place. And, this is all new to all of us, so we're just doing the best we can to cope with it.
Thank you very much.
And right now, we just ask everyone to continue social distancing. Stay at home if you can. Wash your hands. Don't touch your face. All that good stuff. And let's try and get through this. And before I wrap it up, I just want to give a big shout out to North Rock Church. They've been providing us food every day.
Wow,
So
that's nice. Thank you.
we've had a lot of community support. Community Bible Church handed out gift certificates for all the first responders that they've collected from their parishioners. So we have a outpour of support.
Johnny, I also wanted to thank you. Someone gave you a pat on the back. Apparently you went out of your way and got Kelly and Chief Richard some masks.
Yes.
And that was great teamwork, and thanks for looking out for your coworkers. But I also wanted to share with you, y'all have heard about can you hear me with this mask?
Yes.
Okay. Y'all heard of that plasma therapy? It's a Hollywood Park resident that was in on that group. It was a group of 4 or a group of 5. She was one of them. She lives on Alcalde Moreno. And it's showing great promise to the people that they're giving that to. So I hope that will be something that it is a Hollywood Park resident that's involved in that.
That she donated plasma?
No, she works there at the program.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and she did all the testing and stuff.
Oh, wow. Thank you very much, Johnny. For all your
Absolutely.
hard work and keeping us safe.
Yeah.
Thank you, Chief.
You're
Thank
welcome.
you.
Appreciate all you do.
Thank you.
No, I didn't.
We could hear you. Okay. Chief. Richard, thank you for joining us. Please share the
You bet.
police
So
report.
feels odd not to have my pretty slideshow up here to lean on, but we'll get through this quickly. So our calls of service and a lot of our stats we're probably going to be more accurately reflected in April because we still had a pretty good amount of activity up until this happened. So our calls of service are pretty in line with what we normally do, but what you're going to see is when you go down to citations, we had 151 total. Comparatively speaking, we had 394 this time last year. So we're not doing any traffic other than just egregious violation, something that's compromises safety of people. So we're just doing our best to minimize our contact with the public unless it's absolutely necessary. I don't want to rehash everything Johnny said, but I will say this for him and his crew, and I mean this wholeheartedly, that we're leaning heavily on them because this is outside our realm of expertise and it's not what we deal with. So they're doing a fabulous job with what they're given. So we appreciate them. We talk daily. So that's great news. And the other thing I wanted to share, we're both fighting for resources for masks and gloves, and he's doing a great job keeping us. But I hope this is well received. But we also have administrative employees, so we got to make sure we're doing our job to outfit them as well. So I know we've shared some of our resources with them, but if anybody has anything extra, just like you to think about Public Works and admin as well, because they're also out here with us. Maybe not as much contact with the public, but they're still out here and they're coming to work every day, so we appreciate them as well. So if you've been keeping up with us online, we're doing our best to just do some community outreach, right? Because we're just trying to keep things positive for our children and for our community. So you've probably seen the birthdays and the bear hunting and some other things. So we're happy to do that if we can. That gives us some interaction with the public that we're not getting right now. So you know what our officers are doing? We're taking advantage of this. I hate to use the word downtime, but we do have a little extra time on our hands because we're not making all these extra enforcement activities. So we're focusing on training, online training. So we'll bring an officer in and let them do some extra training. So that's good news. Our detectives are using this time to clean up the property room, which is a huge headache. So they're getting a lot of stuff accomplished. And other than that, that's really all I've got. We have some calls for service that were in line with what we normally do. So we haven't seen a dramatic drop in some of the activities. Our presence patrol is doing really well. So our car burglaries are down, but I think that's because we're just driving and driving and driving and driving, right? We're just driving around. So I like that, and I hope we can keep all that stuff down until this thing gets over with. So I appreciate y'all's support. This is strange times we're in. We are doing our best, but I can tell you that the group here in this room, I mean, they stepped up. They really did. I'm real proud to be here, so that's all I have.
Thank you, Chief.
Yes, sir. Got it?
Thank you very much.
I'm sorry, Mayor, and I don't know if this is the time to bring it up or should I should bring it up under citizen participation. But there are residents listening, and I just got an email from a resident that would like to have a question for the police chief. Do we do that now, or citizen
Yes,
participation?
please.
No? Okay. This is Jim Rodriguez from 107 Canyon View, and he says, question regarding checks on residents. In the Sunday newspaper, there was an article about how the police department in Balcones Heights was increasing checks on residents to make sure they were okay. I believe they have the goal of checking on every single resident in their municipality. Has the town of Hollywood Park thought about doing anything like this? With this current situation with people being confined to their homes, it would seem to be important to check on the welfare of our residents, at least those that may be frail or have an age or health-related issue and may be having a hard time being confined. Thank you very much, Jim Rodriguez.
No, that's an excellent point and a very good idea. So I would just make a suggestion on that is we do want to try to limit our exposure to the public, right? But if it's something as simple as being able to go up to a home, knock on the door, get our social distancing and just seeing a face, I'd like to invite John to take a look at that as well. They're a little more trained to know what to look for when it comes to well-being, if you will. I'm happy to help, but I just think we have an excellent resource with fire department. Maybe we can team up and do something.
You know,
I think one of the best ways to do that is just know your neighbor
Great
and
point.
check on your neighbors. That's
Great
one of the
point.
best ways to do that.
Great point.
As residents, I know I read the article that the gentleman's referring to, and I was hoping it would say where the officers were getting their list, their data from, to know who were the most likely residents to be shut in or empty nesters or to be frail. And I didn't ever catch the source of where the addresses that they were checking on came from, and so. But if our residents can continue, they know their older neighbors, and if they can help run errands for them and things.
And we're happy to do it as well, sir. I'll defer to you if you want us to look at something like that. We can talk offline, maybe come up with an idea.
Super. I'll see if I can find out. Thank you, Chief. All right, time for the financial report from Jeff Henson. I'm sorry. Please come in, Jeff. Please join us. Hi.
Yeah, you skip Public Works.
I skipped Public Works. I apologize. Oh, you're part of this. You're going to be a key part of this. Please. Okay.
I'm going to do this.
My
so the
glasses are
public can
fogging
hear
up a
me,
little
okay?
bit with this mask, and I'm going to blame it on that.
We're going through the financial report today.
Yes.
As Brian said, we have right now, I want to calm everybody's nerves, we have 12 months of operating expenses in our fund balance, meaning if we didn't get a cent more, we could last for 12 months, okay? Operating is not capital. At this point in time, we have had about 15% starting in January reduction in sales tax, which could be sales from anybody in town or a combination thereof. In March, which was last year was $142,000, we had $80,000 in sales tax. That's a 44% decrease. That equates to $3.1 million of sales that disappeared. So I have a call into the comptroller to find out about that. Now, there's two things that could happen. They might have given this to the wrong city and we get it back. But last year, 2 months in a row, February, which is December, and March, which is January, were both $142,000. So it could have been a mistake last year. When that happens, they just go in and take the money back, and they don't let you know. But I'm going to find out because I have a call into them. And because of what's going on now, our sales tax budget was $700,000. I think we're going to come in about $400,000. Okay. The billboards gave us $150,000 more than what we expected in the budget this year. but we had a machine, the crack seal machine from Public Works, didn't come in until after the end of the fiscal year. It's 42, so we have $108,000 leeway there. So we will be down in revenue, I expect. Our actual expenses are at 47% of the year, which is good. Most of the expenses, the big capital items, almost all capital items have already been spent. That's what first thing cities do is freeze that, but they've almost gone, is the roads, and you don't want to stop the roads. So when the road comes in, I will come back to you later. If you want to make it up and we do go negative, we have the street fund, which has $482,000 of fund balance in it, and we have the capital project of $508,000 in it, okay? So I have no problem saying that we'll be fine there. The next one is the bond issue. The bonds we paid, the first payment is the principal plus interest, about $150,000. So we have another $50,000 payment coming in August. We have $473,000, and this is as of the audit. That's what you use your audit numbers, sitting in the venue fund to pay for that. So there's no problem there either. I just wanted to make clear that the city is in no way in any financial trouble. It is in very, very good shape, and as I said before, we could go 12 months without making a cent and still meet all the operating expenses. We're fully staffed right now. Like I said, most of the capital items have already money's been spent except for the roads, but I feel very confident that we will make it. And the reason I only have $400,000 out of $700,000 the sales tax is because I don't know I know what's going to happen in May and June. They're going to be really low, but I don't know what's going to happen in the future. But the city should be well off for the remainder of this year, okay? I will email everybody, the council plus the mayor, if I find out, whenever the comptroller answers me, about where that sales tax went to. But other than that, I actually had April's come in, and April was back to just a 15% reduction, which is what's been constant since January for reduction in sales. At that point in time, is there any questions?
Not for me. Thank you, though. Thank you very much.
I look forward to hearing what that reply you get back from the comptroller. So,
All right, Kelly. Public Works. Again, my apologies.
All right, Mayor, Council, thank you.
Yes.
So, Public Works is doing really good. As Chief Pritchard said, just kind of a slowdown for us. The Voight Center, as y'all saw in your packet, has been closed since, I think, the 12th of March. All the events have been canceled, so we're not really doing a whole lot down there. So I've used this time to do a bunch of landscaping down the park. We removed the palm tree. It's gone. Replaced a bunch of plants that had died out, been damaged and destroyed. The garden club actually volunteered to come in and do a bunch of planting in the butterfly garden, so they're putting in a bunch of plants. Had 4 of them out there yesterday, social distancing, but they were actually putting some plants that they grew at their house and brought and donated. So that's what's going on there. Crack seal, my guys are out actually right now as we speak. When you leave here, if you turn left on Sunway, you'll see them running the crack seal machine. They're out there running that right now. Let's see. The mayor did close all the parks. Don't have any date when that's going to open. I've been in contact with Aquatica about the pool. Everybody's in limbo about when we can open the pool. I guess that's once things are starting to calm down and things are lifted, then we'll be able to. It's really not a good idea to open the pool because of social distancing. From everything, all the reports I've read, there's no evidence that the COVID-19 virus is spread through pool water, sauna water, or splash pad because of the chemicals they use to keep them clean. The street project is moving along real good. I meet with the foreman and John from CEC every week, go over what the plans are. Janice is involved in that, so she can get everything out to people and keep everybody informed on that. Let's see, the flood indicators are going in. Last time I talked to them, they are expecting by the end of April to have everything up and running. We were very fortunate. We got all of our supplies and equipment in for the flood indicators before the China thing got shut down. So a lot of the electronics came from China. So they're predicting, or they're expecting to be up and running by the end of April. But with the way things are going right now, I would say let's look towards the end of May. That's pretty much all I've got. My team's out there doing their thing. One other thing I did want to bring up, there was a couple weeks ago, there was some concern about code compliance being a little bit overzealous in their code enforcement. Megan, our code officer, she follows the code. She doesn't play any favorites. I did establish new policy 10 days ago in line with the policy Castle Hills and Chavano Park put out, which is basically the aesthetic code violations. We're going to back off on those. We're only going to enforce if they're really egregious violations, such as, for an example, our code is grass 12 inches or taller. We're not going to say anything, or we're not going to really enforce those, but if we see grass that's, 24, 36 inches tall, we're going to have to enforce that, mainly because it's a safety and health issue. We're going to stay on top of the construction contractors and make sure they're staying up to code. And you can look at your numbers, and the code numbers have dropped drastically also because we've kind of backed off on that kind of stuff. So that's pretty much all I've got. You have any questions?
How far out did we cancel at Boyd?
Excuse me?
How far out did we cancel at Boyd?
What we decided we were going to do is we're giving people the opportunity to either move their date back to a different date or cancel. I had a lady call today on the 6th of June. She has an event. I said, you can call me, or you can send me an email saying, hey, I need to cancel. I'll send you a form. You fill out the form. We give it to finance, and they'll take care of it from there. Or you can wait and see what happens. Contract says 30 days, but with the COVID-19 thing, we're kind of not sticking to that. We're just taking care of people, make sure they get their money back if they can't do their event.
Does that answer your question?
So do we have, probably nothing is booked for May?
No, there's nothing's booked there's still 2 events still in May that they haven't canceled, the 30th and 31st. And they're kind of waiting to see if things lighten up. Both of them are weddings. It's kind of hard to reschedule a wedding. So they're hoping things will lighten up before their event and they can still have their event. But if not, they're going to both cancel.
Thank you.
The last official, I think, press conference from Governor Abbott was using May 13th as the next deadline date. Does that sound correct, Chief Patrico? Because it was about from the 15th of April. He was saying the 13th of May right now, the same things will be in place, but I have a strong feeling they're going to extend it beyond that at some point. But I haven't heard a new date. I think the 30th was something that the president had talked about. Have you heard anything?
Yeah, so the 30th was originally what they put in place for Bexar County, San Antonio State. But they're going by models that are being put out by different agencies as far as when they think we're going to, our peak is going to be, and we're going to start flattening that curve, so to speak.
Yeah.
But, when flattening the curve is not a light switch. It's not something that, all of a sudden April 30th we're going to say, okay, we're good to go. Let's do everything the way we've been doing it. That's not the way that's going to work. You have to slowly get back into it and make sure you're still taking precautions not to spread it because it's still going to be around. But with that said, you look at these projections and it's like looking at a spaghetti plot for a hurricane. There's so many different projections of when we're going to flatten out the curve. So there's really no way of saying for sure when. It's just they put it off, but they're doing it slowly because they're obviously not going to say 6 months from today. So it's 2 more weeks, 2 more weeks, 2 more weeks. Mm-hmm. It's like telling a child when you're going to get to Disneyland, 30 more minutes, 30 more minutes. So, no one knows for sure.
Okay. Well, thank you.
But we're hoping, by middle of next month, we should be able to start doing something.
Well, thank you, Chief. With respect to our facilities, in the newspaper there was a very brief mention of tennis courts when they were talking on and on about golf courses, but it didn't provide any details. And some were talking about making them allowable for singles players, no social gathering, stand 6 feet apart. If those rules change, would you guys be more likely to be favorable to opening it up for that sort of limited type of use, the way the golf courses have been, or just follow the state's lead? Or is there any opinions among the group here regarding that?
Well, I mean, if it's safe and it's, people abide by it, I don't have a problem with it. It's just getting people to abide by it.
Yeah.
Just from my perspective, I just think, the sooner the better, but, that's a personal thing, so.
Mm-hmm. Any other thoughts?
I'm sorry, I was kind of looking over the minutes. What are you talking about reopening?
The tennis courts on a limited basis. If the state, they've talked about it when they talked briefly when they were talking about the golf courses, because a lot of the golf courses also have tennis facilities, and they include a sentence about them, but they haven't made any decisions. At one point, they were talking about allowing them to play singles and maintaining social distance, but not doubles, and no ice chest or any socializing afterward or before, things like that. But like they're using with the golf, just wondered if there were any thoughts among the group.
I'm seeing San Antonio's municipal golf courses to reopen Tuesday under coronavirus rules.
But they're not applying the same rules to tennis, just golf.
Hey, I don't mean to change, but Kelly, were you done with what you had to say? We kind of just.
Yes, if y'all don't have any questions, I'm perfectly done.
Okay.
I thought I was okay. We may hear something this week about the tennis courts, so we might not have to wait a month for the next meeting if you guys were in agreement with following the state's lead and allowing a
Is
limited
there any issue with that?
use.
There's no issue. If you're just following along those lines, you haven't actually adopted any specific restrictions anyway.
No.
So the only restriction on you right now is
It's
the
just
state.
closed now. Yeah.
Okay.
So, do you think it's because when you play, I don't play golf, so I'm not real sure with this, that everybody has their own ball that they hit, and with tennis you're sharing it, so everybody's touching the same ball? Do you think that's why they didn't do it? I don't know.
I think more influential people with business ties have influence on golf courses, and if they're not allowed to use golf carts, they have to walk, which keeps them separate. But they have to place their tee times over the phone ahead of time, and they can place food orders, and they'll come out, and they're working through it. They can't touch the flag stick. They can just get their ball out of the cup. I mean, they've got a lot of rules.
Well, and I would hope that, as human beings, of course, it's questionable for some human beings, but that if you're not feeling good, don't go out on the tennis court. I mean, some of these officials seems like they're starting to treat us like we're 5-year-olds, and for good reason for a lot of people. But if you're sick, you shouldn't be out anywhere.
True.
Mayor.
Are we talking about just the tennis courts? Because
Only the tennis courts.
Most people come
basketball.
down there, they want to bring, mother comes down there, or family comes down there to play tennis. They got kids that are going to go play on the playground, and so we're really going to have to put some.
Then that's a reason not to
Well,
open it
I
at
mean,
all. Yeah.
I think if we put out, tennis courts are open, but this is the way it's got to be done, put out some structure, then I think it's a great idea.
Mayor, I think we're deviating from what's actually on the agenda, since this is
Certainly.
Kelly, I did have
Kelly's
a question.
report, but we're engaging too much.
Okay. All
Are
right.
you familiar
Sorry.
with the house? And I think it's on the corner of Skyforest and Voight, that one that they took a double lot and they're building this monstrosity.
Yes, sir.
Is there any issues or anything that you're aware of that's
So-
going on with that?
Megan, I know, has been in contact with the contractor or the homeowner, who's actually a contractor building the house. I think, and don't hold me to this because I don't have any notes on it, but if I remember correctly, their permits are come up in June. And he's expecting to be done before his permits are up because he's bringing in other contractors to do the
Be
work.
done building the house?
Yep.
Oh, well, that's not going to happen.
I don't think it is either. Not from
And
what I'm
what's the
seeing.
deal with the house that's behind the house? It's like they built a house in front of another house. Or are they considering that
It's all
attaching it?
it's all going to be one big house when it's all done.
Okay. I was a little shocked when I saw that.
It's
Amazon warehouse.
it's a McMansion.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, I walked through it. I mean, it's huge.
Okay.
All right.
All right, thanks.
Janice, could you share the details of your report, please?
Yes, we are currently, when we first started with this COVID-19 issue, we were limited in what we were doing with building permits, as the mayor is aware. I'm not sure all council members were, but we were only processing permits that were already in existence. About a week ago, we reverted back, and so now we're doing all permits. Everything's being done electronically. Great lesson in learning for us. Worked out a little bit of the kinks, but we're full speed ahead. And so that's pretty good. We're able to process everything. Everything has been done electronically. Scanning as far as permits, plans, everything. So that's looking very, very good. If you will go to the report where it shows for court, if you will notice that on the new cases filed for this year, of course, we only had 124 during the month of March. That's because of tickets being at a low because of the issue that we're in right now. Whereas last year, of course, we had 269 tickets issued out or violations for the month of March. But even so, when it goes to the funds, you'll see that we still have a total of $29,381.33 this year, which is very, very close, about $300 short from last year. And the reason for that is that we are contacting in the court, we are contacting all the defendants by phone and asking them if they would like to go ahead and take defensive driving or deferred, and so we've been processing them as usual. So that way when we do court again, there's not such a backlog, although we do have a lot of show causes coming up in the future, but we're able to keep up in that way and still keep our revenue going. So, and like Chief was stating earlier also, it's given us an opportunity this time to really catch up on all our paperwork and so forth. So we're doing very well in that also. I'd like to also say that through our Facebook, Twitter, and other social media, we've been trying to help our businesses as well as we possibly can. For instance, we contacted Bert across the street and asked him if there's anything that we could help him with to promote his business during this time. And he sent us something stating that, they would be, in an effort to keep all the residents safe, they would be willing to go and pick up your vehicle, work on it, and take it back. And so I know you don't all see this because you just see the Facebook page, but he literally got 2,264 hits off of that Facebook post and 158 engagements on that. And so I called him afterwards, and he's been able to do very well. So we're trying to contact all the businesses and just see if there is maybe a feature that they would like to promote, a special, delivery, alcohol with the purchase of a food beverage or what have you. So that's been working out real well. That's all I have now.
Thank you. Thank you, Janice. Mr. Henry, it's your opportunity. The city attorney report.
Actually, the only thing I have to report comes under the city prosecutor area. Just as Janice and Court are reaching out, we are still processing plea agreements, especially for individuals that have been cited and they have an attorney representing them. So Court is forwarding the attorney representation information to the prosecutors, and we're reaching out as the same process as Janice said, to try and knock out people from the docket so that when we do come back, we don't have a huge backlog.
They've been busy with just us alone. So.
I think your Darth Vader mask alters your voice somewhat as well. I wish anyone watching or listening at home could see the augmentation.
The benefits of a 3D printer.
Very nice.
And going back to the police chief's request or comments on masks, if any department heads want a 3D printed mask, let me know and I'll see what I can find for them.
Thank you. Thank you. I just want to turn from my report. I just want to thank the department heads for making best use of this unusual time to get caught up in the police chief's case on training and certification, and the fire chief's case of making sure he's up to date on the changes and keeping his staff safe, and Janice getting caught up on reconciling old permits and the court activity and public works, staying busy with the crack seal program and taking care of the landscaping needs at the normally busy time of year, and Jeff for keeping our finances on order. It's been kind of fascinating participating in a lot of conference calls with a lot of other municipalities and hearing how they're each dealing with the unique variables that they are faced with. I'm grateful that we don't have a lot of things a lot of other towns have, like utilities and school districts and hospitals and jails and prisons and golf courses and things. I'm just so proud of our residents for working together and being vigilant and playing along. I see them out in groups like I haven't noticed before, and I hope we can all weather this and survive and continue to do business with our merchants within our boundary. We've been able to be helpful to them in a lot of ways with our billboard partners and help promote their needs, and with Genesis' help with Bert, and I just hope they can weather this storm, and thank everybody for staying involved. And I'll move on from that to the consent agenda and see if anyone would like to approve the minutes and the financial statements from February and March.
I move that we approve the minutes of the regular council meeting of February 18, 2020, and accept the financial statements as of March 31, 2020.
Do I have a second?
I second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Janice, do you have citizen participation to share with us?
No, sir, no citizen participation, but there is a resident that would like to have his comment read on new business number 2, when that we get to that.
All right, thank you very much. All right, we'll go now to old business, which we don't have any to discuss at this time. New business. Take possible action on an ordinance canceling the May 2nd, 2020 election. And because we have no races with opposition, just need someone to formally take action to cancel that.
I'll move that we take action in canceling the May 2 election.
All right, do I have a second?
I second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Item number 2 is discuss take possible action on canceling the April 24th, 2020 employee holiday.
I have a resident comment, sir, on that.
Yes, please.
This is from Mark Cotton at 312 El Portal. Can you hear me? Okay. Okay.
Yes.
He says, first, thank you for your service to the public and work on the council. I would ask the council not to cancel the Battle of Flowers holiday for our staff. I understand the intent was 24 April to be the Battle of Flowers holiday for the now canceled fiesta. However, there are a few reasons not to cancel that holiday. 1, the last several weeks have been a very stressful time for all of us, including the great employees of our city. This holiday may have opportunity cost to the city, but in this resident's opinion, the employees deserve this time to rest and recharge at home with social distancing, as many of our residents will be able to that day. Number 2, even though Fiesta has been canceled, some of the employees may have already planned doctor's visits or other important appointments that day. Canceling this holiday at this late date may cause inconvenience or hardship for those employees who have made these plans. If the council makes the decision to cancel this holiday, I would hope the council can reschedule the holiday during the rescheduled fiesta in November. Thank you again for your service to Hollywood Park.
All right. I thank Mr. Cotton for his comment. Any comments from
Yeah,
council.
I'd like
Yeah,
to-
if they're gonna reschedule, then,
I
I
Go
mean,
ahead, Scott.
we should cancel it, because there'll obviously be another Battle of Flowers parade, wouldn't there?
I would like to ask the city employees what they think. Janice, Jeff, what do you guys think?
Well, I would like to speak on it because it's a little more complicated than that. First responders have a right to move the holiday to 9/11. So if you cancel their holiday, they never have the right again to have 9/11 off. So the options I thought were you could leave it as the same, what it is, because people actually, like first responders working, will get holiday pay. If it's moved, they won't get holiday pay. You could move everything to 9/11. Or I guess you could move the next fiscal year, but you don't know if that fiesta is actually going to happen.
That's right.
The only reason it came to council was because you approve a holiday sheet every year during budget. Okay, so it will take you to change that holiday sheet if you want it. But that is really the options, and the complication is the fact that part of the city would be able to move theirs to 9/11, but the other two parts of the city would not. So they would not do it unless you moved it all to 9/11.
So if we leave it alone, and we don't cancel it, is there an issue like when they do have fiesta, if they have fiesta this year?
That's my suggestion to you is to keep it this fiscal year so you don't mix it into other fiscal years, because if you have it up and there's not a fiesta, it's not going to. People realize that fiesta may or may not happen, and at that point in time they can make a choice to take a vacation day if they want to. But it's not good crossing fiscal years with policies that you had in one year for budget items like that, because then other things can happen. And like I said, those are options. I want to put one more thing also to you, that September 11th is on a Friday, Labor Day is on a Monday, so if you moved all the holidays there, then that would be a strange week for everybody. So.
No, that makes sense.
You know,
I think we should just leave it.
I'm thinking if we leave it, hopefully by the budget meetings this summer in June through August, we'll have a better idea whether Fiesta is going to take place in November and whether the new employee calendar would include that year's Fiesta to be done in November or in April. I don't know.
Well, if you did that though, then you would have two in 1 year.
Not in the, no, it would be a different fiscal year. The November would be
when's the fiscal year?
October 1
October
starts
1
the new
is the
fiscal
next
year.
fiscal year.
Okay, but what about the fiscal year starting October 1 all the way through the next October? Then you'll have two Battle of
Wouldn't
Flowers.
be one for, well,
Yeah,
yeah.
I don't see what you're saying.
You would have another one
You
in
have one in
April.
April, you have one in November.
Right.
We would take the one in April and
Yeah, and just blow off, not have the one in November.
So then you're pushing
Yeah.
the rock down. You're kicking
One
the
more
can
thing I
down the
want
road.
to
How
say
it
is all employees get a personal day, and if they choose, they could take that on the day in November. The problem is November, I saw the actual schedule today, but it's an if. I mean, you just had one of the largest events in the world canceled, Oktoberfest in Germany. So we don't know what is going to happen, what isn't. But if people feel strongly enough about that, then they could take the personal holidays that you give, and those are actually a choice on what day they could do.
Oh, good.
I have a question. I don't know, back when everything started, did the employees get together and pick holidays? Because I was confused, and I don't, I've not called Windcrest or other little towns, but on the norm, I see this as government, and a lot of times when I'll say something and they'll say, oh no, we're working on President's Day. I'm just throwing out that name. I don't know if y'all do work on President's Day, but I just thought y'all would follow the government holidays, the President Day, the Veterans Day, the Labor Day, and not days like this that are canceled and you have to bring up the subject. So I don't know how that came about, if y'all picked it.
I think some 40-something years ago, we were given the choice of Good Friday or Battle of Flowers, I thought, when I worked at Handy Andy or Coca-Cola. And so the employees had a choice of going to the parade or enjoying the religious holiday, but that was how it was addressed back then. Is that familiar with any of the people in this room? Any of you as old as I?
What happens, Mayor, is just that every year the calendar goes before the council, and you have the right and the authority to do whatever you want to do. If you want to cancel half the holidays, you cancel half the holidays. If you want to pick one and over that's strictly up to you. And that's how it, by the way, got to be the way it is. Several councils, every council has a different idea, so it's strictly up to you all. So whenever it comes up again, you can vote on however
What's
you
your
like.
preference, Janice, on the 24th?
I agree, well, just because I'm a finance person also, I agree with Jeff. I think it's much cleaner, much nicer. It's already been scheduled. I can see the chief nodding his head yes also at that. And here's the deal. If in November, God willing, this is all over and just a bad dream, and people want to go, great, take a personal day. Take a vacation day. Not that big of a deal. It's not like the parade comes through Hollywood Park. So, I mean, you know, I agree with Jeff.
Yep.
Yeah, I think we should leave it.
Too. All right, would you like to make a motion?
Do we have to? Just no action, okay.
All right. Then this would allow me to adjourn our meeting now today at 1:59 p.m. I want to thank everyone for coming. Stay safe.